Hi there. Well, I'm in Bucaramanga in Colombia, in the sort of northeast of the country, towards the Venezuelan border, still on the Cordillera Oriental, the eastern part of the Colombian Andes. And it's been really interesting following the presidential campaign. So it's the 19th of June today, Friday the 19th, and in 2 days, so on the 21st of June, we will have voting for the second round of the Colombian presidential election. And this voting will pit Iván Cepeda, who's the establishment left figure, against Abelardo de la Espriella, who's this energetic right-wing populist candidate. And if you're interested in some of the associations that these figures have, or some of the associations they've been accused of having, then I would listen to the last Free Kiwis episode that I've just uploaded. And in that I go into not only some of the associations these guys have been accused of having, but also the kind of deep past of the left and the right in Colombia, with De la Espriella associated, for example, with Uribe, who was the right-wing leader, president of Colombia in the noughties. And on the other hand, Iván Cepeda being the son of another Cepeda who was more full-blooded communist. So all of that I go into on that Free Kiwis episode. What I wanted to talk to you today about is more the campaign as I've experienced it and I've seen it in Bogota, and then moving outside of Bogota along this Cordillera Oriental in cities like Tunja, in tourist hubs, historic cities, or historic towns like Barichara and Villa de Leyva, and now in Bucaramanga, this mid-sized town. And there is actually a free speech, I should say, angle here, because it's very interesting that early on in the campaign, a tribunal in Bogota tried to ban Abelardo de la Espriella from using one of his main slogans, which, as anyone will know who's been in Colombia in the past couple of weeks or months, is firmes por la patria, which is hard to translate but means something like standing steadfast or standing firm for the fatherland. It's a phrase with military connotations. And in a beautiful illustration of the Streisand effect, whereby censorship actually ends up bringing more attention to the thing that the censors are trying to ban, this has really helped De la Espriella because he's continued to use that slogan. Eventually the tribunal finding was reversed by a higher court, but it really meant that he could present himself very effectively, even more so as an anti-establishment figure. He's been telling people, the establishment is trying to censor me, I'm just trying to be patriotic. Don't let them stop you being patriotic. And that's really worked. The other day here in Bucaramanga in the center, I saw a guy go by on a motorcycle with a Colombian flag, shouting to everybody, apparently at random, "Firmes por la patria." And as he went by, people burst out into applause. A lot of people started shouting back at him, "Firmes por la patria." So, and they did so with the kind of attitude that suggested they identify with this too. They think that they're being censored, that the establishment wants to censor their patriotism. And so that's really working, as far as I can see it, to De la Espriella's advantage, as far as I can see from a town like this. And this phrase, firmes por la patria, actually has very deep historical connotations here in Colombia. And I only realized this the other day when I was walking around the center and I stumbled upon, in a little square, a statue of an independence hero, a man called Custodio García Rivera. And on that statue, there's the phrase, firmes Cachiri. Now, Cachiri was a battle. It was actually kind of the Waterloo of poor old General Rivera, who was later executed by the Spanish forces who crushed the rebellion that he was involved in. But he is alleged to have said, and this has become part of patriotic mythology here in Colombia, he's alleged to have said to his troops at that battle, "Firmes Cachiri," so people of Cachiri, stand steadfast and stand firm. And so all those historical connotations are something that De la Espriella is trying to pick up on, and as I can see, as I say, as far as I can see, that's been very successful. Now, Iván Cepeda, he's a figure that I haven't seen that much of in terms of posters here in Bucaramanga, or really since I left Bogota, but you do see the odd poster, and of course he's very big in Bogota. And his campaign is very different, and I think he's consciously and deliberately tried to strike a very different note to De la Espriella, and he's done that in order to really emphasize a contrast and a distinction between him and De la Espriella. Cepeda is stressing the gentler virtues. He's talked a lot about amor, love, and he's also talked a lot about defending life, defender la vida, which you might think is a phrase from the conservative right. who maybe were concerned about abortion. But no, in this case, Cepeda has latched on to defending life, because I think for him and for the Colombian left, it symbolizes the defense of human rights, something that they see De la Espriella as a threat to. And it also reflects a difference in the way that the Colombian left and the Colombian right have traditionally approached relations with narco-terrorism and narco-terrorist organizations like FARC. On the right, especially under Uribe, the plan was to militarily defeat them, to go all out militarily. And the result of that has been, in a way, quite positive, but of course, along the way, there's been a lot of pain, a lot of bloodshed, a lot of suffering. On the left, the strategy has been more often to negotiate with these organizations. And so I think that is something that Cepeda is trying to tap into as well. He's saying the right is going to lead to more suffering, more war, more death. The left is for the right. So that's what I've seen of the two campaigns here. It's been really interesting to travel around this country and to see the different vibes in different towns. And it's going to be really interesting to see the results, which will come out soon after June the 21st, except, of course, if they have a technical tie, which is empate técnico, which is what they actually had in Peru just recently in their second round of the election. And in that case, it took much longer to reach a result. I think we still haven't had the final result in Peru. And that may actually happen in Colombia too, because it's very polarized here. There are obviously these two big blocks of the left and the right, all of whom are going to support their candidate. The last polls I've seen, I have to say, have been leaning towards De la Espriella by several percentage points. Single figures, but several percentage points. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if it was extremely close. So we'll see.